Hello there, and welcome to the Sleep with Science channel, where tonight, we are going to take you somewhere most people will never truly allow themselves to go. Not in body, not in mind, not even in the quiet hours before sleep finally arrives. Tonight, we are going to let go of everything familiar, everything warm and close and knowable, and we are going to drift outward, slowly, gently, into a truth so vast and so profound that most of us spend our entire lives standing right at its edge without ever looking down. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Let your hands rest where they are. Feel the weight of your body sinking, easing, releasing. Breathe in slowly through your nose, and as you breathe out, imagine that with each exhale, the room around you grows just a little quieter, a little darker, a little more still. The sounds of the world outside begin to fade, not disappear, just soften, like a radio slowly being turned down until all you can hear is the faintest hum of something older and deeper and unimaginably far away. That hum is the universe. And tonight, it has something extraordinary to show you. We begin here, on this planet, on this familiar spinning world of blue and green, orbiting an ordinary star in the outer curve of an ordinary galaxy. You know this place. You were born into it. Every warmth you have ever felt, every voice you have ever loved, every moment of beauty or heartbreak or wonder, all of it has happened within a thin, delicate shell of atmosphere clinging to a rock that is, in cosmic terms, almost embarrassingly small. The Earth is roughly 8,000 miles across. Our Sun is over 100 times wider. And our Sun is just one among an estimated 2 trillion galaxies visible in the observable universe. 2 trillion. Let that number dissolve into your breathing. Don't try to hold it. Just let it pass through you like the slow, gentle tide of a very deep ocean. Now, from here, from this small and beautiful planet, we are going to travel outward. Not quickly, not urgently. There is no rush tonight. Space does not rush. Space is, in fact, the most patient thing that has ever existed. It has been expanding for over 13.8 billion years, and it has never once hurried. So we won't either. As you drift, imagine you are rising above your bed, above your home, above the soft glow of city lights spread like embers across the dark. You are rising above the clouds, thin and silver in the moonlight, above the last breath of the atmosphere where the sky fades from deep blue into black. And then you are in it, truly in it, the silence that has no bottom, the darkness that has no preference for you or against you. It simply is. Ancient and indifferent and breathtaking in a way that has no word in any human language that quite captures it. Look back, just for a moment. The Earth hangs there, luminous and impossibly small, a marble of swirling blues and whites suspended in absolute nothing. There is a photograph taken by the Voyager 1 spacecraft in 1990, when scientists asked it to turn its camera back toward home from a distance of nearly 4 billion miles. In that image, Earth appears as a tiny, pale point of light, barely a fraction of a single pixel in size. The astronomer Carl Sagan called it the pale blue, and he wrote that on that mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, every human being who ever lived out their lives. Every king and farmer and child and philosopher. Every war ever fought, every love ever felt, every great empire that rose and crumbled back into the earth. All of it on that single, almost invisible point of light. Now let that image go. Let it shrink behind you as you continue outward. Beyond the moon, beyond the cold reaches of the outer planets, beyond the slow-drifting icy bodies at the edge of the solar system known as the Oort cloud, a vast, spherical shell of frozen remnants that extends perhaps 1 to 2 light-years from our Sun, you eventually cross into the true interstellar medium. The space between the stars. And here, the distances begin to do something to the human mind that is not quite like anything else. They begin to make quiet feel like a physical presence, like something you could reach out and touch. The nearest star to our Sun is Proxima Centauri, sitting roughly 4.24 light-years away. A light-year is the distance light travels in a single year, moving at 186,000 miles per second. In 1 second, light can circle the entire Earth more than 7 times. And yet, even at that incomprehensible speed, it would take light itself more than 4 years to reach our closest stellar neighbor. If you were traveling on the fastest spacecraft ever built by human hands, the Parker Solar Probe, which has reached speeds of nearly 430,000 miles per hour, it would still take you roughly 6,000 years just to arrive at Proxima Centauri. 6,000 years. Entire human civilizations have risen and vanished in that span of time. And yet, in the grand architecture of the cosmos, that distance, those 4.24 light-years, is almost nothing at all. It is a single step on a journey so long that the human mind was never truly built to comprehend it. But we are going to try. Tonight, we are going to let the mind soften around these distances rather than strain against them. We are going to breathe into them, the way you might breathe into the slow release of tension in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the space behind your eyes. Let the numbers stop being numbers and start being something more like a feeling. A feeling of depth, of stillness, of extraordinary, almost sacred isolation. Because that is where we are heading tonight, toward a truth that the universe has been quietly holding all along, waiting for a moment just like this one, a dark room, a resting body, a mind finally willing to loosen its grip on the ordinary, to reveal itself fully. The universe is more isolated than you think, more solitary, more silent. And in that silence, there is something waiting that is not frightening at all, but is instead profoundly, unexpectedly peaceful. Let your breathing slow just a little more. In through the nose, out through the mouth. With each breath, let yourself sink a little deeper into wherever you are resting. The weight of your legs, the warmth of the blanket or the pillow beneath your head, these things are still here. You are still here. But your awareness is expanding outward now, gently, like ink dropped into still water, spreading without effort, without force. We are still in the interstellar medium, that vast and almost incomprehensibly empty ocean between the stars. And the word empty does not quite do it justice. When most people hear the word empty, they picture something like a bare room, or a field with nothing growing in it, a space that is empty in the way human spaces are empty, which is to say, still full of air, still full of texture and dimension and the lingering presence of things that were recently there. But interstellar space is empty in a way that has no human equivalent. In the best vacuum we can create here on Earth, there are still roughly 3 quadrillion molecules of gas per cubic meter. In interstellar space, that number drops to fewer than 1 million atoms per cubic meter. And in the deepest voids between galaxy clusters, it drops further still, to perhaps 1 atom per several cubic meters. 1 single atom, floating alone, surrounded by meters of absolute, perfect nothingness in every direction. Try to hold that image gently in your mind. A single hydrogen atom, the simplest and most ancient of all atoms, born in the first few minutes after the Big Bang, drifting through a void so immense that its nearest neighbor is not a few inches away, not across a room, not across a field, but perhaps meters or dozens of meters away. Alone in a darkness that has no horizon, no surface, no direction that differs from any other. This is the texture of most of the universe. Not the glittering stars in the night sky. Not the luminous swirl of galaxies in deep field photographs. Those brilliant, beautiful things are the exceptions. The rule is this, the long, dark, patient nothing between them. And yet, even knowing this, the night sky as seen from Earth can feel almost crowded. On a clear night, far from city lights, you might look up and count thousands of stars with your naked eye alone. The Milky Way arches overhead like a river of light, dense and ancient, and it is easy, deeply easy, to feel that the universe is full. that it is rich and populated and radiant in every direction. But this feeling, beautiful as it is something of an illusion born of proximity. Those thousands of stars you can see are all, every single one of them, within a few thousand light-years of Earth. A neighborhood, cosmically speaking. A small, local cluster of familiarity in an ocean that stretches for 93 billion light-years in diameter, and possibly far beyond even what we can observe. 93 billion light-years. The observable universe alone. And beyond the boundary of what we can observe, space almost certainly continues. Perhaps forever, perhaps into structures and geometries that our mathematics can gesture toward but our intuition cannot follow. The light from those distant regions has simply not had enough time, in the 13.8 billion years since the Big Bang, to reach us. It is traveling toward us even now, at the speed of light, crossing distances so vast that the universe itself will have changed dramatically before that light ever arrives. Some of it may never arrive at all, because the fabric of space between here and there is expanding faster than light can cross it. That expansion, the quiet, relentless stretching of space itself, is one of the most extraordinary and least discussed facts of our existence. Space is not just a container that holds the universe. It is itself a thing that grows, that breathes, in a manner of speaking. The galaxies are not flying apart through space the way fragments of an explosion scatter through air. Instead, the space between them is itself, stretching, expanding, growing in every direction simultaneously, like the surface of a balloon being slowly inflated from within. Every point in the universe is moving away from every other point, not because anything is traveling through space, but because space itself is becoming more of itself, quietly, continuously, without pause or preference or destination. And this changes everything about how we understand isolation. When we think of something being far away, we typically imagine a fixed distance, a gap that could in principle be crossed if only we had enough time or speed or fuel. But the universe does not work this way. The galaxies we can see at the very edge of the observable universe, those faint smudges of ancient light captured in photographs like the Hubble Ultra Deep Field, are not simply far away in the way that another country is far away. They are receding. And the farther away they are, the faster they recede, because there is more expanding space between us and them. Beyond a certain distance, known as the Hubble radius, galaxies are receding from us faster than the speed of light. Not because they are moving through space at that speed, nothing with mass can do that, but because the space between us and them is growing so rapidly that light itself cannot bridge the gap. This means there are galaxies we will never see, not because we lack powerful enough telescopes, but because the universe is actively, permanently pulling them beyond our reach. There are regions of space that are causally disconnected from us. Places that existed, that perhaps still exist, that contain stars and planets and possibilities we will never know, and never could know, no matter how long our civilization endures or how sophisticated our instruments become. They are lost to us not by distance alone, but by the fundamental geometry of a universe in motion. Breathe with that for a moment. Let it settle over you like something soft and very heavy. There are worlds we will never reach. Lights we will never see. A whole cosmos beyond our cosmos, separated not by walls or doors but by the quiet, inexorable expansion of space itself. And here we are, on our pale blue dot, in our unremarkable solar system, in the outer arm of our spiral galaxy, enclosed within a bubble of observable space that is, from a certain perspective, all we will ever have. And yet there is something in this that does not feel like loss, if you let it sit quietly enough. There is something that feels instead like the particular piece of a room with the curtains drawn, a fire burning low, the world outside large and unknowable and distant, and you here, within it, small and warm and exactly where you are meant to be. The vastness is not a threat. It is a context. And within that context, the present moment, this breath, this darkness, this slow drift toward sleep, becomes something almost luminous in its specificity. You are here. Precisely here. In a universe that has no obligation to contain anything at all, and yet contains this. Let your body continue to soften. Notice the places where you are still holding tension, in the muscles along your spine, in the backs of your hands, around your eyes, and without forcing anything, just notice and breathe and allow. The universe has been releasing and expanding for nearly 14 billion years. It knows something about letting go. Now, as we continue our slow drift outward through this meditation, this journey into the true nature of cosmic isolation, let us return for a moment to the galaxy we call home. The Milky Way. From the inside, we cannot see its full shape, in the same way that you cannot see the architecture of a forest when you are standing within it, surrounded by trees in every direction. But from what astronomers have pieced together through decades of patient observation, radio mapping, and infrared imaging, we know that our galaxy is a barred spiral, roughly 100,000 light-years in diameter, containing somewhere between 100 and 400 billion stars. It is ancient. Most of the stars in its oldest regions formed more than 10 billion years ago, when the universe itself was still young and dense and burning with the energy of its own beginning. Our Sun sits roughly 26,000 light-years from the galactic center, in a relatively quiet region known as the Orion Arm, sometimes called the Orion Spur. We orbit the center of the Milky Way at a speed of approximately 515,000 miles per hour, completing one full orbit roughly every 225 to 250 million years. The last time our solar system was in this same position relative to the galactic center, the Triassic period was just beginning on Earth, and the first dinosaurs were only starting to emerge. That is how slowly the galaxy turns. That is the scale of time we are embedded within. And around us, in this quiet spiral arm, the stars are separated by distances that make even the vast emptiness of interstellar space feel intimate by comparison. In our immediate stellar neighborhood, the average distance between stars is roughly 4 to 5 light-years. 4 to 5 light-years of emptiness between each point of light. If you were to shrink our entire solar system down to the size of a dinner plate, the nearest star on that same scale would be located roughly 2 miles away. 2 miles of empty space between dinner plates. And this is the densest, most populated region we know, our own neighborhood, our own familiar corner of the galaxy, and even here, the overwhelming reality is distance, is separation, is the long, quiet dark between one light and the next. Sit with that image for a moment. 2 dinner plates, 2 miles apart, in a field of absolute darkness. And between them, nothing. No dust, no sound, no signpost, no texture of any kind. Just the faint gravitational whisper of one mass acknowledging the existence of another across an emptiness so complete it would take our fastest spacecraft thousands of years to cross. And then beyond those 2 plates, in every direction, more of the same. More distance. More silence. More of that extraordinary, patient nothing that makes up the overwhelming majority of everything that exists. It is worth pausing here, in this soft and drifting place between waking and sleep, to consider what this means for light. We speak of light as though it is instantaneous, as though flipping a switch floods a room the moment your finger moves, and on the scale of human rooms and human moments, this is effectively true. Light moves so fast that for the distances we inhabit day to day, the delay is unmeasurable by any human sense. But on cosmic scales, light's finite speed becomes one of the most profound and quietly melancholy facts in all of science. When you look at the night sky, you are not seeing the universe as it is. You are seeing it as it was. Every photon of light that reaches your eye has been traveling, sometimes for an almost incomprehensible span of time, to find you in this moment. The light from our moon left its surface roughly 1.3 seconds ago. The light from our Sun is about 8 minutes old when it warms your skin. The light from Jupiter, depending on where both planets are in their orbits, is between 33 and 53 minutes old. The light from Proxima Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbor, is 4.24 years old. And the light from the Andromeda Galaxy, the nearest large galaxy to our own, left its source approximately 2.537 million years ago. When you look at Andromeda on a clear autumn night, a faint, elongated smudge just barely visible to the naked eye, you are receiving light that began its journey before the first members of the genus Homo walked upright on the African savanna. Before stone tools. Before fire. Before language or memory or the concept of looking up at the sky and wondering. Let that land gently. You are not looking at the universe. You are reading its history, one layer at a time, each photon a messenger from a past that no longer exists in the form that sent it. The stars you see tonight may have changed dramatically since their light left them. Some may have expanded into red giants, swallowing their inner planets whole. Some may have already collapsed. A handful of the stars visible to the naked eye are so distant that they could theoretically have gone supernova, exploded in a final, brilliant catastrophe of light and energy, and we would not yet know. The news is still traveling toward us. The sky we call the present is, in fact, a vast collage of different pasts, layered and overlapping, a museum of moments that the universe has already moved on from. And this is one of the deepest dimensions of cosmic isolation. Not just the distance between things, but the temporal gulf that distance creates. We are separated from the rest of the universe not only in space, but in time. We exist in our own narrow, moving window of now, unable to know what is happening elsewhere in the cosmos at this very moment, because the speed of light imposes a fundamental limit on how quickly information can travel. There is no cosmic telephone, no instant connection. Every signal, every wave, every particle carrying information about the state of the universe elsewhere must travel at the speed of light or slower, which means that on the largest scales, we are always receiving news that is old. That the universe, in a very real and measurable sense, cannot know itself in real time. Physicists have a term for the region of space from which information can, in principle, reach us. They call it the observable universe, that sphere roughly 93 billion light-years in diameter centered on our position. But the word observable carries within it a quiet kind of loneliness, because it implies, gently but precisely, that there is so much more that is not observable. Not hidden behind clouds or mountains or the limits of current technology. Hidden behind time itself. Behind the hard, bright wall of light's finite speed and space's relentless expansion. Let your breathing find its rhythm again. In and out. There is no urgency here. No destination that requires arriving quickly. We are simply drifting, you and I, through one of the most extraordinary ideas the human mind has ever tried to hold, the idea that the universe, for all its staggering scale and luminous complexity, is in its deepest nature a collection of isolated islands, each one an oasis of matter and energy surrounded by oceans of distance so vast that no message between them could ever cross. Not in a billion years. Not in 10 billion. Not even given the entire remaining lifespan of this universe as it cools and dims and stretches toward its final, unimaginable silence. Sit with that for a moment. Let it settle, the way snow settles, slowly, without sound, covering everything it touches in the same pale stillness. Because what we are describing is not a failure of imagination or a gap in our knowledge that future science will someday close. It is a structural feature of reality itself. A seam woven into the fabric of existence at the very beginning, in those first fractions of a second when the universe expanded faster than light itself could chase, pulling regions of space apart before they ever had the chance to become acquainted. There is a name for this boundary. Physicists call it the cosmic event horizon. And it sits, invisible and absolute, somewhere out in the deep dark at a distance of roughly 16 billion light-years from where you are lying right now. Not the edge of the universe. Not a wall you could press your hand against. Just a threshold beyond which events can no longer send their light fast enough to outrun the expansion of space between there and here. A point past which the cosmos simply stops speaking to us, not because it has nothing to say, but because the distance grows faster than the message can travel. Forever. In every direction. All at once. Think of what that means for something as fragile and brief as a signal. A radio wave, or a pulse of visible light, or the gravity of a dying star. All of these things move through space at the fastest speed that nature permits. And yet, for every photon that has ever escaped some distant galaxy and aimed itself, however indirectly, toward the Milky Way, there are uncountable others that will never arrive. Not because they didn't try, but because the space beneath them was always, quietly, relentlessly widening. The runway extending faster than the plane could fly. Breathe in and out. There is something strangely comforting in this, if you let yourself be still enough to feel it. Not the comfort of safety, exactly, but the comfort of scale. Of knowing that whatever worry or weight you brought with you into this evening is nested inside something so incomprehensibly vast that it becomes, by comparison, almost weightless. Almost luminous in its smallness. Astronomers estimate that the observable universe, that familiar sphere of 93 billion light-years, contains something in the range of 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. Each one a structure of hundreds of billions of stars. Each star a nuclear furnace. Each furnace surrounded, in many cases, by worlds. And all of that, every photon and every atom and every spinning planet and every improbable arrangement of chemistry and gravity that has ever called itself alive, all of it represents only the small, illuminated portion of a much larger whole. The lit room in a house of uncountable dark rooms. The campfire in the middle of a continent of night. What lies beyond the observable horizon is not empty. The universe does not become nothing simply because we cannot see it. Cosmologists believe, with considerable confidence, that the same kind of matter and energy and galactic structure that fills our observable region continues outward in every direction, perhaps for an unimaginable distance, perhaps forever. And if it does continue, if space really is infinite or nearly so, then somewhere out there, beyond any horizon we could ever reach or observe, there may exist arrangements of matter statistically identical to our own. Other planets orbiting other suns with other skies that pulse the same deep blue at dusk. Other oceans. Other minds lying in other darknesses, listening to other silences, feeling, just perhaps, the same quiet vertigo you are feeling now. This is not metaphor. This is mathematics. In an infinite universe, given enough space and enough of the same finite set of particles and quantum states, repetition becomes not just possible but inevitable. The same patterns must eventually recur. The same molecules, the same spiral of a galaxy, the same geometry of a coastline, the same cascade of electrochemical events that, in some arrangement, once looked out at a night sky and felt something it could only call wonder. All of it, out there, beyond the wall we cannot see past, beyond the horizon we cannot reach, separated from us by a distance that has no name because no human language was built for numbers that large. And yet here you are. Here we are. In this particular fold of the universe. In this particular moment that will not repeat in any way that could ever reach you. The light from our own sun takes 8 minutes to arrive at this surface, this ground, this skin. The light from the nearest star beyond our own takes more than 4 years. And still that feels almost neighborly compared to the gulfs we have been describing. Still that feels like something you could almost, on a good day, almost touch. Let your eyes remain closed if they have found their way there. Let the darkness behind them be its own kind of sky. Because we are only beginning to understand what it means to say the word alone in a cosmic sense. We are only beginning to trace the edges of what isolation actually looks like when you remove from it all human warmth and scale and replace it with the cold, patient arithmetic of light years and expansion rates and the inexorable drift of galaxies away from one another, each one accelerating, each one drawing further from every other, the way a breath released into cold air disperses and thins and becomes, after only a moment, indistinguishable from the surrounding nothing. There is a force responsible for this. A force so strange and so counterintuitive that when Albert Einstein first encountered it in his own equations, he removed it, convinced he had made an error. He called it his greatest blunder. And then, decades after his death, astronomers discovered that it was real. That it had been there all along, woven into the mathematics because the mathematics, it turned out, was wiser than the man who wrote it. They call it dark energy. And it is, in every meaningful sense, the loneliness of the universe made physical. Dark energy is not dark because it absorbs light. It is dark because we cannot see it, cannot measure it directly, cannot touch it or collect it or point an instrument at it and say, "There, that is the thing." We know it exists only through its consequences, through the way galaxies that should, by the ordinary arithmetic of gravity, be slowing down are instead speeding up, accelerating outward, pulled not toward one another but away, as though the universe itself has decided, quietly and without announcement, that separation is its preferred state. Breathe slowly now. In and out. Roughly 68% of everything that exists is dark energy. Not matter. Not the stars or the planets or the clouds of gas that drift between them. Not the dark matter that invisibly threads the large-scale structure of the cosmos into its vast, web-like architecture of filaments and voids. But this other thing. This pressure that lives inside space itself. This tendency toward expansion that grows not weaker with distance but stronger, filling every cubic centimeter of the void with the same quiet, irresistible instruction. Expand. Separate. Drift. And the universe obeys. It has been obeying for billions of years. And the longer it obeys, the lonelier it becomes. Galaxies that are today visible to our most powerful telescopes will one day, in the deep future, pass beyond our cosmic horizon entirely. Not because they exploded or collapsed or ran out of stars. Simply because the space between them and us will have stretched enough that their light can no longer make the crossing. They will vanish, not in fire, but in silence. One by one, over timescales so enormous that no human vocabulary comfortably holds them, the observable universe will grow emptier. The 2 trillion galaxies will become fewer and fewer, until, in the very far future, a civilization arising within the Milky Way, if anything then resembles a civilization at all, would look out at its sky and see almost nothing. A handful of gravitationally bound neighbors. And beyond them, blackness. A blackness that gives no hint, no whisper, no ancient photon's worth of evidence that anything else has ever existed anywhere. They would have no way of knowing. The evidence will have left, carried away on the same expansion that carried the galaxies themselves beyond the horizon. They would look at their equations, if they had equations, and find no reason to believe the universe was ever anything other than this. Small, quiet, nearly empty, nearly still. We are fortunate, in a way that is difficult to fully absorb, to exist now. In this particular epoch, when the universe is old enough to have formed stars and galaxies and planets and the chemistry of living things, but young enough that the sky is still full, still speaking, still sending us its ancient light across distances that humble every human concept afar. We live inside a brief window of cosmic legibility. A moment, measured against the full lifespan of the universe, so thin that it would not register as a single line on any graph drawn to true scale. And within that moment, we have developed eyes and instruments and mathematics precise enough to read what the light is telling us. What it tells us is both magnificent and melancholy in equal measure. It tells us that the universe began in an event of almost incomprehensible energy and density roughly 13.8 billion years ago. That in the first fractions of a second, it inflated at a rate that separated regions of space so completely that they have never been in contact since. That matter and energy cooled and clumped and eventually organized itself into the filamentary structure we see today, a cosmic web of superclusters and voids stretching across scales that the human nervous system was simply not designed to feel. And that all of this, every last photon and particle and gravitational wave, is moving, not randomly, but outward, always outward, pulled by dark energy through a space that is itself expanding, not into anything, but simply becoming more of itself, creating distance where no distance previously existed. And somewhere in the middle of all of this expansion, this patient and absolute drift, sits a small barred spiral galaxy, unremarkable by most cosmic measures, orbiting quietly through a mid-density region of a supercluster that will itself one day dissolve into the widening dark. Inside that galaxy, near the edge of one of its arms, a single yellow star burns steadily. Around it, a small blue world turns. And on that world, in this moment, you are here, breathing, still. Your body conducting its 10,000 quiet processes without any instruction from your conscious mind. Your heart moving blood through chambers that have never once, since the moment they began, required you to. Remember to ask them to. Your lungs expanding and contracting with a rhythm older than language, older than thought, older than the first living thing that ever drew anything resembling a breath on this particular world. There is something worth staying with in that image. The body as an autonomous universe. A system of staggering complexity running beneath the threshold of awareness, keeping itself alive, keeping itself warm, keeping its chemistry balanced with intolerances so precise that a deviation of even a few degrees in either direction would begin to unravel everything. And it does all of this without your attention, without your worry, without any effort from the part of you that thinks and plans and remembers and feels the particular human ache of wondering what it all means. So let that part of you rest now. Let it go soft, the way water goes soft when it stops moving. You do not need to understand anything tonight. You do not need to arrive at any conclusion. The universe has been expanding for nearly 14 billion years without needing a conclusion, and it seems, by all available evidence, to be doing fine. Better than fine. It is doing what it has always done, which is simply to continue, to persist, to allow the laws written into it at the very beginning to unfold at their own pace, in their own time, across distances and durations that make the word vast feel almost quaint. Breathe in. Let it go. There is a concept in cosmology that carries within it a particular kind of quiet devastation. It is called the Great Filter. Not dark energy, not entropy, not even the heat death of the universe, that final equilibrium in which all temperature gradients have vanished and no work can be done and nothing, anywhere, can change. The Great Filter is something else. It is the idea, proposed in the context of our apparent cosmic loneliness, that somewhere along the path from simple chemistry to starfaring civilization, there is a step so difficult, so improbable, or so dangerous that almost nothing makes it through. A bottleneck, a narrowing, a place in the long developmental sequence of intelligent life where the overwhelming majority of candidates simply stop. The filter could be behind us. The origin of life itself may be so improbable that, in a universe of 2 trillion galaxies and unimaginable numbers of worlds, it has happened only once, or nearly so, and that one time was here. On this blue world. around this ordinary star, in this unhurried corner of a galaxy with no particular claim to distinction. If that is true, then we are not merely rare. We are something approaching singular. An accident of such compounded improbability that no other mind in the entire observable universe has ever looked at a night sky and seen what we see, felt what we feel, asked what we ask. Or the filter could be ahead of us. Somewhere between where we are now and the kind of civilization that spreads among stars and endures for geological timescales, there may be a threshold that no civilization has yet crossed. A wall, invisible until you are nearly upon it, after which nothing continues. This possibility is the one that carries the colder feeling, because it would mean that the silence of the cosmos is not the silence of emptiness. It is the silence of endings, of countless civilizations that rose and reached and then, each in their own way, stopped. We do not know which is true. We do not have enough data to decide. And in this moment, lying still in whatever quiet you have made for yourself tonight, that uncertainty is not something you need to resolve. It has been sitting in the equations for decades, patient and undemanding. It will still be there when the sun rises. It will still be there when the next generation of telescopes turns its enormous eyes toward the sky and listens, with more sensitivity than we have ever managed before, for any signal, any pattern, any rhythm in the noise that could only have been made by a mind. So far, the sky has answered with silence. Not the silence of a room between moments of conversation. The silence of a place where no conversation has ever begun. Deep, structural, geological silence, the kind that does not feel like the absence of sound so much as a property of the space itself. A quality the universe seems almost to have chosen. And yet here is what is true, and what is worth holding gently as you drift. That silence has not always been silence for us. We have been listening with serious instruments for only a handful of decades. In the context of the age of the universe, that is not even the blink of an eye. It is something smaller than a blink. A single photon's worth of time in an ocean of light years. We have barely begun. We have aimed our small dishes at a tiny fraction of the sky and listened for a tiny fraction of a second by cosmic standards, and from that we have concluded only that we have not yet heard anything. Not that there is nothing to hear. The universe is under no obligation to reveal itself on our schedule. It did not arrange its billions of years of evolution to culminate at a moment convenient for our curiosity. It simply continued, as it always has, indifferent to whether anything was watching, indifferent to whether the watching mattered, indifferent even to the extraordinary fact that matter had, in one small corner of one average galaxy, arranged itself into something capable of looking back at the whole and feeling, somewhere beneath the ribs, that particular trembling mixture of awe and smallness that has no clean name in any language, but that every human being who has ever stood beneath a truly dark sky and looked up has felt move through them like a slow current through still water. It is one of the stranger gifts of consciousness. This capacity to be undone by scale. Animals do not, as far as we can tell, experience the vertigo of the infinite. A wolf does not pause at the edge of a field and feel the weight of the light years pressing down on it from above. A bird navigating by the stars does not contemplate what lies beyond them. Only something like us, something that developed language and mathematics and the particular kind of restless curiosity that refuses to stop asking why, only something like us looks at the night sky and feels simultaneously enlarged and erased by what it sees. Enlarged, because to perceive something is in some small way to contain it. Every star you have ever seen with your naked eyes, every photon that has ever landed on your retina after traveling unimaginable distances through the dark, became, in that moment of contact, part of you. Part of your nervous system's ongoing record of the world. The light of Andromeda, 2.5 million years old when it reaches us, dissolving into the chemistry of a human eye, becoming a signal, becoming a thought, becoming something that a mind holds and turns over and wonders about. That is not nothing. That is, in its own way, extraordinary. Breathe in and out, and erased, because the same perception that allows us to contain the light of distant galaxies also shows us, with a clarity that can feel almost unkind, how briefly and how thinly we exist against the backdrop of everything. The universe was here for 9 billion years before the Earth formed. It was burning and expanding and organizing itself into structures of breathtaking elegance for 9 billion years before the particular arrangement of rock and water and atmosphere that would eventually produce us had even begun to cool. And it will continue, in one form or another, for timescales so much longer than our own that the entire history of life on this planet, from the first replicating molecule in some ancient warm shallows to whatever we eventually become or fail to become, will represent a vanishingly small fraction of what is still to come. The sun will burn for another 5 billion years or so before it exhausts its hydrogen and swells and changes and eventually subsides into the dense, cooling remnant that astronomers call a white dwarf. 5 billion years from now. A number that the mind can read but cannot truly feel. In 5 billion years, the continents will have rearranged themselves into configurations no current map anticipates. The oceans may be different. The atmosphere will certainly be different. Whatever lives on this world, if anything does, will be as unrecognizable to us as we would be to the first microorganisms that clustered in the chemical warmth of early Earth. And after the sun dims, the universe will continue. Red dwarf stars, smaller and cooler and far more frugal with their fuel, will burn for trillions of years. Trillions. The universe at an age of 1 trillion years will be, by almost any measure, unrecognizable. The stars we know will mostly be gone. The galaxies will have merged or dispersed. The cosmic microwave background, that faint glow of ancient light that fills all of space and carries within it the fingerprint of the early universe, will have stretched to wavelengths so long they become effectively undetectable. The universe will be darker, colder, more diffuse, but not empty. Not yet. Not for an almost incomprehensible span of time beyond even that. Physicists who study the deep future of the cosmos describe what they call the stelliferous era giving way to the degenerate era, and eventually to the black hole era, and finally to what they sometimes call the dark era, a period so remote in time that our current numbers lose their meaning. An era in which the last black holes have evaporated through the slow quantum process Stephen Hawking described, radiating their mass back into the universe one particle at a time over timescales that make the current age of the cosmos look like an opening breath. And after that, if the physics holds, there will be a universe that contains almost nothing. A thin, cold, diffuse gas of the lightest possible particles, spread across a space so vast that interactions between them will become rarer than anything our mathematics has words for. A universe in its final equilibrium. Not dead, exactly. Physics does not quite allow for death in the absolute sense. But still, enormously, permanently, structurally still. This is where the equations lead when you follow them far enough. This is the destination that the expansion and the entropy and the slow unwinding of all available energy are moving toward, together, at their own unhurried pace. And knowing this changes nothing about tonight. Nothing about the warmth of the air around you, or the weight of the blanket, or the small sounds that a house or a room makes when it settles into its own kind of quiet. Because you are here now, in the stelliferous era. In the brief, luminous, almost improbably fertile period of the universe's life, when stars are being born and dying and scattering their heavy elements into clouds that collapse into new stars and new planets and new chemistries capable of new and stranger forms of organization. You exist in the most interesting chapter. The one with light in it. The one where things still happen. Where things are still in the business of becoming. And that is not a small thing to be, even if you forget it most days. Even if the forgetting is necessary, the way sleep itself is necessary, the way the body has to close its eyes against the enormity of the world just to survive inside it. Think about what becoming means at the scale of the universe. A hydrogen atom formed in the first few minutes after the Big Bang, when the universe was still a place of almost unimaginable heat and pressure, a place where nothing complex could yet exist, a place where the only chemistry possible was the simplest kind. That atom drifted for hundreds of millions of years in the cooling dark. It joined a cloud. The cloud collapsed under its own gravity. The collapse generated heat. The heat ignited fusion at the center of what was now a star. And the star burned for millions or billions of years, fusing lighter elements into heavier ones, building carbon and oxygen and silicon and iron in its layered interior, the way a skilled craftsman builds things in layers, each one dependent on the one beneath it. And when the star died, when it had exhausted what it had to burn, it released all of that built complexity back into the surrounding space. Back into the dark, where it waited again. Another cloud. Another collapse. Another star. Another generation of fusion and burning and dying and scattering. And somewhere in the debris of that second or third or fourth stellar generation, a small rocky world formed in a stable orbit around an ordinary star. And on that world, the scattered chemistry of dead stars found itself in liquid water under a young sun and began to organize. Slowly, patiently, over timescales that dwarf the entire history of human civilization the way an ocean dwarfs a single raindrop. And here you are, made of all of it. Made of hydrogen from the first minutes and carbon from the cores of stars that burned out before the sun existed and oxygen that was scattered by supernovae whose light no living eye ever witnessed. You are, in the most literal and unmetaphorical sense, a continuation of that process. The universe becoming aware of its own composition. Finding a shape in you in which it is briefly capable of wondering about itself. Breathe that in slowly. Let your body feel the weight of it without needing to hold it all in your mind at once. This is not the kind of knowing that requires alertness. It is the kind that settles better when you are quiet, when the analytical parts of you have softened and the deeper, older parts are listening. Because the universe, for all its vastness and all its cold arithmetic, has produced something here that it cannot produce easily. Consciousness is not a common feature of the cosmos. Look at the inventory. Hydrogen and helium and a trace of lithium, vast filaments of dark matter, the electromagnetic hum of radiation still cooling from the first light. Gas clouds and dust and the slow gravitational waltz of matter accumulating into structure. Galaxies forming and colliding and merging across timescales so long they are essentially incomprehensible from the inside of a human lifetime. And then, in one corner of one unremarkable galaxy, on one small planet orbiting one quiet star, something opened its eyes. Astronomers have mapped the cosmic web. They have traced the large-scale structure of the universe, the way matter has arranged itself along thin filaments and dense nodes, the way galaxy clusters gather at the intersections of those filaments like cities at crossroads, with enormous voids between them, volumes of near emptiness so large that light takes hundreds of millions of years to cross them. The universe, seen at sufficient scale, is mostly nothing. Mostly the absence of anything. Mostly space so empty and so cold that the word lonely becomes almost a technical description rather than an emotional one. And yet, the nodes exist. The galaxies exist. The stars within them exist, burning their patient fires, spending their hydrogen across millions and billions of years in the slow and radiant commerce of fusion. And around some of those stars, something has happened that the emptiness of the surrounding voids cannot account for and cannot contain. Something small and warm and briefly complicated. You are not separate from the universe observing it from some external vantage point. You are a region of it. a local zone in which the matter and energy of the cosmos have achieved a temporary and extraordinary degree of organization. Your thoughts are the universe thinking. Your awareness is the cosmos, in this one place, at this one moment, doing the thing it almost never does. Noticing itself. And the night around you, the darkness of the room and the darkness beyond the window and the darkness extending out through the atmosphere and into the interplanetary space and beyond the heliosphere into the deep cold between stars, all of that darkness is not empty of meaning simply because it is empty of light. It is the context in which the light exists. The silence that makes the signal audible. There is a concept in astronomy that is quieter and stranger than most of the dramatic ones, that tends to arrive in the mind not with a shock but with a slow deepening. It has to do with what is sometimes called the observable universe, with the boundary not of space itself, but of what we can see from here, from this particular location in space and time. From this small planet around this ordinary star in this one galaxy among hundreds of billions. The observable universe is not the whole universe. It is a sphere, centered on us, defined not by any wall or boundary in space itself, but by the speed of light and the age of the cosmos. Light travels fast, faster than anything else, but it does not travel instantaneously. It takes time. And the universe has only existed for a finite duration, roughly 13.8 billion years, which means that the light from objects beyond a certain distance has not had enough time to reach us yet. Not because those objects are hidden. Not because something is blocking the view. Simply because the light is still traveling. Still crossing the intervening space. Still in transit across a distance so enormous that even moving at the speed of light, it has not yet arrived. Everything beyond that horizon exists, as far as we can tell. The universe does not end at the edge of what we can observe. The laws of physics give us no reason to think it does. The same galaxies, the same filaments, the same vast architecture of matter and void, almost certainly continues beyond the limit of our vision, in all directions, perhaps forever. Perhaps for a distance so much larger than the observable sphere that the numbers involved become functionally indistinguishable from infinity. We simply cannot see it. And we never will. Not because science will fail to advance, not because our telescopes are inadequate, but because the universe is expanding. The space between us and those distant regions is growing. And in many cases, growing faster than light can cross it. So the light from those places will never reach us. Not in any future we can imagine. Not in any future the physics permits. Those regions of the universe are, in the most precise and irreversible sense, beyond our horizon forever. Let that settle somewhere soft in your mind. There is a universe out there, perhaps infinite in extent, filled with structures and events and perhaps even other forms of complexity and awareness, and we will never see any of it. Not one photon from those regions will ever cross the distance to our instruments. We are, in a sense that is real and not merely poetic, alone inside our observable bubble. Island. Surrounded on all sides by a horizon that retreats faster than we can approach it. And yet inside that bubble, there is so much. The observable universe contains an estimated 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. Each one a gravitational system holding billions or hundreds of billions of stars. Each one a kind of island unto itself, separated from its neighbors by distances so vast that the space between them is nearly as empty as the space beyond our horizon. And within each galaxy, around some fraction of those stars, the possibility of worlds, of chemistry, of time and heat and liquid water and the slow patient work of matter finding more complex ways to organize itself. The numbers are too large to hold. And that is fine. You were not meant to hold them. You were meant to rest beneath them, the way you rest beneath the sky itself, aware of its vastness without needing to measure it. Close your eyes a little more. Feel the breath moving in and out of you, which is to say, feel the oxygen that was built in stellar cores moving in and out of the local region of organized matter that is your body, your temporary and extraordinary body, doing its ancient automatic work of keeping you here one more moment, one more breath, one more soft passage through the night. The universe is isolated in a way that its own inhabitants can barely comprehend. Each galaxy cluster is becoming more isolated as time passes, as the expansion carries everything away from everything else, as the light from distant regions redshifts into invisibility, as the horizon of the observable universe slowly empties of the structures that were once, billions of years ago, close enough to see. In the far future, astronomers on any world that still has astronomers will look out into the sky and see far less than we see tonight. The galaxies that we can observe, the Virgo cluster and the Coma cluster and the great filaments of the cosmic web, will have receded beyond all possible detection. The astronomers of that distant era, if they exist, will look out and see only the local group. Only the small gravitationally bound family of galaxies that includes the Milky Way and Andromeda and a few dozen smaller companions. Everything else will be gone. Not destroyed. Not collapsed. Simply moved beyond the horizon. Simply carried away by the expansion into permanent invisibility. They will not know what they are missing. They will have no evidence that anything else exists. The universe will look, from their instruments, like a far smaller and simpler place than it actually is. And we are lucky, in a way that has nothing to do with luck, to exist in this era. Early enough that the light from all of that structure is still reaching us. Early enough that the cosmic web is still visible in our deepest surveys. Early enough to understand, at least in principle, something of the true scale of what surrounds us. We are looking out from inside our bubble at a universe that is already beginning to recede. Already beginning to pull away from us in all directions, the way the edges of a dream pull away when you try to examine them too closely, becoming indistinct, becoming something felt rather than seen, becoming the atmosphere of sleep rather than any specific image you could describe to someone in the morning. And there is something almost tender about that. Something that asks nothing of you except that you notice it, briefly, before you let it go. The galaxies are leaving. Not all of them, not yet, not the ones bound to us by gravity, the ones that share our small gravitational neighborhood and will stay with us through the long future of the cosmos. But the distant ones, the ones we can see in our deepest surveys as faint smudges of ancient light, those are already moving away faster than any ship or signal we could ever send could follow. They are becoming, in a real and final sense, unreachable. Not because we lack the technology, because the physics does not permit it, because the universe is not a place that holds still long enough to be fully explored. It expands. It always has. And the expansion is not slowing. Something called dark energy, a property of space itself that we do not yet fully understand, is accelerating the expansion, pushing the distant galaxies away faster and faster with every passing billion years. So the isolation is not stable. It is increasing. The universe is not staying the same distance away from us. It is moving, deliberately and irreversibly, in the direction of greater emptiness, greater separation, greater quiet. Think of it as the universe settling in for a very long sleep of its own. Not tonight. Not for an incomprehensible span of time yet. But the direction is set. The trajectory is clear. And you are here, in the brief luminous middle of it, the warm and complicated middle, where the expansion has not yet emptied the visible sky, and the stars are still burning, and the light is still arriving from distances almost beyond measure. There is a star whose light is reaching your atmosphere tonight that left its source before the Earth existed, before the Sun ignited, before the solar nebula had even begun to collapse into the disk that would eventually form everything you have ever stood on or touched or known. That light has been traveling for more than 4.5 billion years, and tonight it is completing its journey by entering the atmosphere of the very planet that formed while it was in transit. There is something in that coincidence, if coincidence is even the right word, that resists being spoken about directly. It can only be approached the way you approach something sleeping. Quietly, without sudden movements. You do not need to be awake to receive that light. It falls on you whether you are watching or not. The photons do not require your attention to complete their journey. They arrive, they interact with the matter they encounter, and they are absorbed, and that is the end of 4.5 billion years of uninterrupted travel through the dark. A quiet ending. An ending with no audience except the matter itself, which does not keep records. But you are made of matter that does keep records. Loosely, imperfectly, in the soft and fallible medium of memory and sensation, and the particular chemistry of a brain that is always slightly rewriting what it stores. You are the universe's attempt at a record keeper, at something that notices, at something that can hold, however briefly and imprecisely, some small reflection of the whole. Let the whole be large tonight. Let it be as large as it actually is without your mind needing to reduce it to something manageable. Manageability is for daylight, for decisions and calendars and the small practical architecture of a life being lived. Tonight you are not managing anything. Tonight you are only here, breathing slowly, feeling the particular texture of this moment, which will not come again in exactly this form. The universe has a texture too, if you allow yourself to feel it rather than measure it. It is the texture of vast timescales brushing against the brevity of a single consciousness. It is the texture of incomprehensible distances containing, at their center, this room, this breath, this body growing heavier as sleep approaches. The universe's texture tonight is the texture of everything being simultaneously enormous and intimate. Of the same laws that govern the formation of galaxy clusters, also governing the electrical signals moving through the quiet architecture of your nervous system right now, slowing as you relax, softening as the night deepens. Physics is not separate from you. It is the language your body speaks without knowing it is speaking. Every cell in you is a thermodynamic system. Every breath is an exchange of energy with the surrounding air. Every heartbeat is a pressure wave moving through fluid, a small hydraulic event in the long story of matter organizing itself against the general drift toward disorder. You are doing something remarkable just by being here. Just by maintaining the improbable and temporary complexity of a living body through another night. The entropy that will eventually claim the energy of every star in every galaxy has not claimed you yet. You are still on the near side of that. Still in the warm era. Still in the part of the story where the lights are on. Still in the chapter where energy moves and matter organizes and the universe is doing the restless, generative work of becoming rather than the long, patient work of forgetting. And forgetting is what it will do, eventually. Not all at once. Not dramatically. The universe does not end with a sound. It ends with a silence so gradual that the word ending becomes almost inaccurate. A slowing. A cooling. A dimming so incremental that no single moment could be identified as the moment the last light went out. It will simply get darker and darker and darker still, across timescales that make the current age of the universe look like the first syllable of a sentence that takes 1 billion years to finish. But that is not tonight. Tonight the stars are burning. Tonight the Milky Way is arcing overhead in its slow and ancient rotation, carrying its several hundred billion stars through the dark in the great gravitational waltz that has been going on for longer than the Earth has existed. Tonight the Andromeda Galaxy, 2.5 million light-years away, is moving toward us at roughly 110 kilometers per second, drawn by the mutual gravity of two large spiral galaxies finding each other across intergalactic space. In about 4.5 billion years they will begin to merge. Not collide, exactly. Merge. Because galaxies are mostly empty space, mostly the vast dark distances between stars, and when two galaxies interpenetrate, what happens is not a catastrophic crash but a slow gravitational rearrangement. Stars being flung into new orbits. The two spiral structures dissolving into each other over hundreds of millions of years and eventually settling into a new shape, something elliptical and quieter, something that astronomers call Milkomeda in their more informal moments, a merged remnant of both galaxies combined into one. The Sun will likely survive that merger. The Earth, if it still exists, though the Sun's own evolution will have rendered it uninhabitable long before then, will be carried along into whatever orbit the merger assigns it. The night sky over that distant world, if anyone were there to see it, would be extraordinary. Dense with stars in some directions. Lit by the combined glow of two galaxies becoming one. But no one needs to be there to see it for it to happen. The universe does not require witnesses. It proceeds with or without eyes watching, with or without minds to hold the image of what it is doing. It is doing it regardless, in the patient and indifferent way that physics does everything, following its own laws with a fidelity that nothing in the cosmos has ever managed to violate. Rest in that for a moment. There is something deeply settling about a universe that follows its own rules without exception. No surprises at the fundamental level. No moments where the laws decide to work differently. The same equations that describe the orbit of the Moon describe the orbit of a planet around a star in a galaxy 3 billion light-years away. The same thermodynamics that governs the cooling of a cup of tea in a quiet room governs the cooling of the universe itself across its entire history. Everything is described by the same small set of principles operating at every scale, in every corner, without interruption or exception. You are inside a system of extraordinary regularity. Whatever uncertainty exists in your life, and there is always uncertainty, it exists inside a physical framework of almost perfect consistency. The ground beneath you is held to the Earth by the same gravity that holds the Earth to the Sun and the Sun to the Milky Way. The atoms in your body are stable for the same reasons that atoms anywhere in the observable universe are stable. You are more connected to the deep regularities of the cosmos than you are to most of the things that feel urgent during the daylight hours. Let that connection be real tonight. Let it be felt rather than only understood. The distance from the surface of the Earth to where the atmosphere fades into the technical definition of space is roughly 100 kilometers. 100 kilometers. If you could drive there in a car on a vertical road at highway speed, you would arrive in less than an hour. Space is not far. The boundary between the air you are breathing and the vacuum in which the planets move is closer to you right now than many of the cities you have visited or might visit. It is only gravity and the scale of the atmosphere that makes it feel remote. That makes the night sky feel like something belonging to another realm entirely rather than something just above the roof. But it is just above the roof. The cosmos is immediate. It is pressing against the thin skin of this atmosphere from all sides, at every moment, in every kind of weather and season and hour of the night. The stars are not elsewhere. They are simply up, in the direction that a held object falls away from, in the direction that the atmosphere grows thin and then absent, and then the distances become something no unit of everyday measurement was designed to express. Above you right now, at the edge of that thin and improbable layer of air, is the vacuum of space. And in that vacuum, moving in their ordained paths around the sun, are the other worlds of the solar system. Each one a different experiment in what a planet can be. Each one a variation on the theme of rock and gas and ice and gravity, playing out across billions of years of slow and patient time. Saturn hangs in the outer dark with its rings tilted just so, catching sunlight at an angle that no photograph has ever quite translated into the feeling of actually seeing it. Those rings are not solid. They are not a disk of stone. They are billions of individual pieces of ice and rock, each one orbiting Saturn on its own, each one following the same law of gravity that holds the moon in its path around the Earth, that holds the Earth in its path around the sun. From a distance they look like a single smooth and luminous band. Up close they would resolve into a vast and tumbling cloud of fragments, some no larger than a fist, some the size of a house, all of them circling in the same plane, all of them caught in the same slow gravitational dance that has been going on since before the first living cell divided in the warm shallows of the early Earth. And beyond Saturn, further still, where the sunlight falls so faint that it barely casts a shadow, Neptune moves through its long year. A year on Neptune lasts 165 of our own. The planet was discovered in 1846, and it has only just now, in the span of recorded human history, completed a single orbit since the moment we first knew it was there. It is a world of deep blue methane clouds and winds that move faster than any storm that has ever crossed this planet's surface. It is cold in a way that the word cold was not invented to describe. And yet it moves. It follows its path with the same indifferent precision as every other body in this system, as every atom that has ever been part of a star or a moon or a drifting cloud of interstellar gas. These worlds exist right now, in real time, while you rest here. Saturn is where it is, tilted as it is, ringed as it is, at this very moment. Neptune is where it is. The moons of Jupiter are moving through their orbits, casting shadows on the great brown and amber bands of that planet's cloud tops. Io is erupting. It is always erupting. It is the most volcanically active body in the solar system, driven not by internal heat left over from formation but by the gravitational pull of Jupiter itself, squeezing the moon like a hand squeezing a wet cloth, generating heat through tidal friction, keeping the interior molten, keeping the surface in a constant state of renewal and destruction. Io does not know stillness. And yet from here it is invisible to the naked eye, a point of light if you know where to look, a detail in the glow of Jupiter, nothing more. All of this is happening above you. All of this motion, all of this scale, all of these different experiments in what a world can be, all of it unfolding in the dark just past the edge of the atmosphere you are breathing. And then the edge of the solar system, which is not a clean line, which is not a wall or a border drawn in space. The solar system ends the way a conversation ends, gradually and then completely, the sun's influence fading over such distances that the concept of nearness begins to lose its meaning. The heliopause is the name given to the boundary where the solar wind, the constant stream of charged particles flowing outward from the sun, finally becomes too weak to push back against the interstellar medium, the thin and ancient gas that fills the space between stars. Voyager 1 crossed that boundary. A spacecraft launched in 1977, built by human hands, carrying a golden record with the sounds of Earth pressed into its surface, sounds of wind and rain and music and voices, it crossed the heliopause and entered interstellar space. It is the farthest object humanity has ever sent anywhere, and it is still so close, in the terms that the universe uses, that the distance between Voyager and the nearest star is almost impossible to express without the number seeming like a mistake. That nearest star is Proxima Centauri. It is approximately 4.2 light-years away. A light year is the distance light travels in 1 year, moving at roughly 300,000 kilometers every second, never stopping, never slowing, the fastest that anything in the known universe can move. In 4.2 years of that motion, you reach the nearest other sun. Voyager, traveling at the speed it travels, would take approximately 73,000 years to cover that distance. 73,000 years. Our entire recorded history fits inside 10,000. The ice ages that sculpted the continents fit inside 100,000. And Voyager, our fastest and farthest ambassador, would not arrive. This is the isolation. Not the isolation of a room or a country or even a planet. The isolation of a solar system. The isolation of a bubble of sunlight surrounded by distances so vast that even the concept of travel begins to seem like a category error, like trying to measure the ocean with a ruler designed for a kitchen counter. And Proxima Centauri is not a destination in any meaningful sense. It is simply the nearest point in a field of points stretching in every direction, each one separated from the next by similar abysses, the stars spaced like memories across the dark, present but unreachable, real but separated by silences that have no floor and no ceiling and no wall, only distance, only the particular emptiness that exists between suns. And yet the stars are there. That is the thing that does not stop being remarkable, no matter how many times the mind turns it over in the quiet before sleep. They are there. Proxima Centauri is a real place. It has, we now know, at least one planet orbiting within its habitable zone. A world. A surface of some kind, perhaps. Something that a person standing on it would experience as ground beneath their feet, as sky above their head, though the sky would be lit by a dim red star quite different from the yellow warmth of our own sun, and the radiation environment would be harsh, and the planet is likely tidally locked, meaning one side always faces the star and the other always faces the eternal dark, and the line between those two hemispheres would be a permanent twilight, a ring of perpetual dusk circling the entire world. And on that world, or in that system, right now, at this very moment while you rest, whatever is there is simply being what it is, indifferent to the fact that we have named it, indifferent to the fact that we have aimed our telescopes at it and measured the slight dimming of its star as the planet crosses in front and calculated from that dimming the size and orbit of the world. It does not know it has been seen. Nothing out there knows. The knowing is only here, only in these small and temporary minds that evolved on this one warm and watery world and then somehow developed the capacity to wonder about the rest of it. That capacity is strange when you hold it still for a moment. The universe does not appear to require consciousness to function. Gravity does not need to be observed to operate. Stars do not need to be named to burn. The distances between them do not need to be measured to exist. Everything that happens in the cosmos would happen exactly as it happens if there were no minds anywhere to register it, to feel the weight of it, to lie awake in the dark and think about the space between stars and feel something in the chest that is not quite fear and not quite wonder but lives in the neighborhood of both. And so the isolation deepens. Not only is the solar system surrounded by distances that no living thing has crossed, but the awareness of that isolation exists only here. Only on this planet. Only in minds that are themselves made of the material of the cosmos, carbon and oxygen and iron and calcium, elements forged in the cores of stars that no longer exist, scattered by explosions older than the sun, gathered by gravity into a world, warmed by a new star, organized over billions of years into cells and then into creatures and then into something capable of sitting with the knowledge of its own smallness and not being destroyed by it. The Milky Way contains somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars. The uncertainty in that number is itself a kind of vertigo, the range between the low estimate and the high estimate being larger than most people's intuition can hold. And each of those stars is separated from its neighbors by distances comparable to the distance between our Sun and Proxima Centauri. The galaxy is not crowded. It only appears dense when viewed as a whole, The way a city appears dense from altitude, even though most of what you are flying over is the space between buildings, the space between people, the largely empty air that fills the streets and rooms and lungs of a place that from above looks almost solid. Most of the galaxy is nothing. Most of the space inside the Milky Way is interstellar medium, the thin cold gas and dust that drifts between the stars, occasionally dense enough to form clouds, occasionally compressed enough by gravity or the shock wave of a nearby explosion to begin collapsing inward, to begin forming a new star, to begin the whole long process again. Between those rare and scattered events, the interstellar medium simply drifts. Cold, patient, unmeasured by anything within it. And then beyond the galaxy itself, the void deepens again. The Milky Way is not alone. It belongs to a group of galaxies, a gravitationally bound collection that astronomers call the local group, which contains a few dozen members of various sizes. The largest of these, the Andromeda Galaxy, is approximately 2.5 million light-years away. 2.5 million years of light's travel. And it is approaching. Slowly, over a timescale that makes human history look like a breath held for a moment and then released, Andromeda and the Milky Way are moving toward each other, drawn together by mutual gravity, fated to merge over the course of billions of years into something larger and less structured than either of them, a great elliptical cloud of stars that will not resemble the elegant spiral arms of either galaxy as they currently exist. The collision will not feel like a collision. The stars are so far apart inside each galaxy that the two galaxies will pass through each other largely unimpeded, the stars missing each other by the same vast margins that keep the stars from colliding in ordinary galactic life. But the gas clouds will interact. And from those interactions, new stars will be born, compressed into ignition by the violence of those meeting clouds, lit suddenly in the darkness the way a match is lit, except on a scale that makes the word sudden meaningless, each new star taking millions of years to form, millions of years being the blink that the universe allows itself between one thing and the next. And all of this is the local story. All of this, the solar system and its worlds, the distance to Proxima Centauri, the span of the Milky Way, the approaching mass of Andromeda, the slow future collision of two galaxies, all of this is the immediate neighborhood. All of this is what astronomers mean when they speak of our cosmic backyard, and the phrase should stop you, should land with a kind of gentle weight, because a backyard is a place, a place you can walk across in a minute, a place bounded by a fence or a hedge or a neighbor's wall. And yet this backyard contains 400 billion stars and spans 100,000 light-years and will eventually merge with another structure of comparable size in an event that will reshape the sky over billions of years. If this is the backyard, then the word home requires a different kind of stillness to hold. Beyond the local group, there are other groups, other clusters, other superclusters. The Virgo supercluster, of which the local group is a minor and peripheral member, contains hundreds of galaxy groups spread across a region approximately 110 million light-years across. And even the Virgo supercluster is itself a tendril, a filament, a single arm of a larger structure called Laniakea, a name drawn from Hawaiian meaning immeasurable heaven, a supercluster of superclusters spanning 500 million light-years and containing the mass of 100 million billion suns. Laniakea was only mapped in 2014. It had existed for billions of years before anyone knew its shape. It will continue to exist long after the knowing of it fades from whatever passes for memory in whatever comes after us. And Laniakea is one structure among many. The observable universe contains roughly 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. Each one a collection of hundreds of billions of stars. Each star potentially hosting worlds. Each world sitting in its own silence, surrounded by its own abyssal distances, unaware of the others, unreachable by any means we currently possess or can currently imagine. The observable universe is not the whole universe. It is merely the portion from which light has had time to reach us since the beginning, since the first expansion of space itself, since whatever preceded the state we call the origin of everything. The whole universe may be vastly larger than what we can observe. It may be infinite. The word infinite sounds clean when it is spoken, but it resists being understood. The mind reaches for its edge and finds no edge. It reaches for its center and finds that every point is equally the center. It reaches for comparison and finds that nothing in ordinary experience prepares a person for the actual meaning of without boundary, without end, without the comfort of a wall against which the back can rest. And in that universe, in that perhaps infinite expanse of space and matter and time, we know of one place where something looks back. One pale and water-covered world, wrapped in a thin and temporary atmosphere, orbiting a medium-sized star in the outer arm of an ordinary galaxy, where creatures made of stardust developed language and mathematics and the ability to feel lonely, the ability to feel small, the ability to look up into the dark between the stars and feel the weight of all that silence pressing gently down. There is something in that feeling worth staying with. Not the fear of it, though the fear is understandable. Not the vertigo, though the vertigo is appropriate. But the other thing underneath those two, the quieter thing that lives beneath the awe and the scale and the dizzying arithmetic of distances. The thing that says, and yet here we are. And yet something knows. And yet the universe has produced, in at least one corner of itself, something capable of being moved by it. Something capable of lying still in the dark and listening to the silence between thoughts and feeling the presence of all that space above and around and in every direction, and not shutting it out, not turning away, but simply resting inside it, inside the knowledge of it, the way you might rest inside a very large and very quiet room. The room does not need you to understand it fully. The scale does not require your comprehension to be real. The stars burn whether or not you know their names, their temperatures, their distances, their eventual fates. But the knowing, the partial and imperfect and always incomplete knowing that a human mind can gather across a lifetime of looking and reading and wondering, that knowing is its own kind of light. Small, local, flickering, but present in the dark in a way that the dark itself is not. You are made of elements that were once inside a star. The iron in your blood was forged in a stellar core. The calcium in your bones was scattered by a supernova. The oxygen you are breathing right now, slowly, in the rhythm of rest, was produced inside a sun that no longer exists, scattered into the void across billions of years, gathered by gravity into a new cloud, compressed into a new star, cycled through the long and patient processes of the cosmos until it arrived here, in this atmosphere, in this room, in these lungs, moving in and out with the slow rhythm of a body at rest. You are not separate from the universe. That is the thing that the distances can obscure if you let them, if you allow the scale to become only a source of smallness, only a reminder of how little space a human life occupies in the arithmetic of all that exists. But the elements do not lie. The chemistry does not lie. Every atom in your body has a history that predates the solar system, that predates the sun, that reaches back through generations of stars to the earliest moments after the beginning, when the universe was young and hot and simple, and the only elements that existed were hydrogen and helium and trace amounts of lithium, light elements born in the first minutes of expansion, before there were any stars to forge the heavier ones. Everything heavier than helium was made inside a star. That sentence is worth holding for a moment in the quiet. Everything heavier than helium. The carbon that forms the backbone of every organic molecule in every living thing on this planet. The nitrogen in the proteins that build and repair the body during sleep. The oxygen already mentioned, already breathed, already taken into the blood and carried to the cells that are quietly maintaining the life of this body while the mind drifts toward rest. The phosphorus, the sulfur, the iron, the calcium. Every one of these elements was forged in the nuclear furnace of a stellar core, produced by the same fusion reactions that make a star shine, and then released into space when that star ended, when it collapsed and exploded and scattered its interior across the surrounding void. You are the inheritance of that scattering. Not metaphorically. Not as a poetic way of gesturing at something vaguely profound. Literally. The atoms that form your body passed through at least one star, possibly several, before they were incorporated into the cloud of gas and dust that gravity eventually compressed into the sun and the planets and everything that lives on this particular world. You are made of processed starlight. You are made of the ash of stellar fires that burned and died before the Earth existed. And here you are, those atoms temporarily organized into a shape that breathes and thinks and feels the pull of sleep, lying still while the night moves around you and the stars burn on above the atmosphere, indifferent and ancient and in some way that is difficult to name but not difficult to feel, continuous with everything you are. The universe does not feel distant when understood this way. It feels intimate. Not in the way that a room is intimate, not in the way that a face close to yours in the dark is intimate, but in a deeper and older way, in the way that origin is intimate, in the way that the thing you came from is always closer than geography suggests. You did not come from this planet in the way that a stone comes from a quarry, simply extracted from one place and moved to another. You came from the stars in the way that the stars came from the beginning, through a process of transformation so long and so complex that the word process barely holds it, through fire and gravity and time and chemistry and biology and every other form of organization that the universe has found for its matter over the course of 14 billion years. And the universe itself is still going. That is another thing to rest inside tonight, another layer of the quiet. The expansion that began at the origin has not stopped. The galaxies are moving apart. The space between them is growing, not because they are moving through space in the ordinary sense, but because space itself is expanding, carrying the galaxies with it the way dots drawn on the surface of a balloon move apart as the balloon inflates. The universe is larger right now than it was when you began reading these words. It is larger than it was when you lay down tonight. It is larger than it was at any previous moment in its history, and it will be larger still at every future moment, expanding outward into whatever surrounds it, if surrounding is even a concept that applies, if outside is even a direction that exists in relation to everything that exists. The edges of the observable universe are receding from us faster than light. Not because anything is moving through space faster than light, which is not permitted, but because the space between us and those distant regions is itself expanding fast enough that the distance grows at a rate that exceeds the speed at which light can cross it. Those regions are gone from us. Not gone in the sense of destroyed. Gone in the sense of permanently beyond reach, permanently beyond communication, permanently beyond any possible exchange of information or light or influence of any kind. There are galaxies that existed within our observable universe in the early cosmos that are now beyond it, carried past the horizon by expansion, still burning in their own local darkness, still spinning their stars through their long galactic years, simply no longer reachable by anything we could ever send or say or shine in their direction. The conversation closed before it began. The light that left those places is still traveling toward us in some cases, still crossing the intervening dark, but the places themselves have moved beyond the boundary of what can ever be known from here, beyond the edge of the story that this particular point in space is able to tell about the universe it finds itself inside. And still the universe is not lonely. Loneliness requires a self that knows it is alone. The universe does not know. It simply is, in all its expansion and all its silence and all its slow and patient rearrangement of matter into stars and stars into elements and elements into worlds and worlds into whatever arises on their surfaces when the conditions are right and time is generous. It does not experience the distances between its galaxies. It does not feel the cold of the interstellar medium or the heat of a stellar core or the long emptiness between one supercluster and the next. It simply contains all of these things, the way a night contains its own silence, without awareness, without preference, without the particular ache that comes from being a small and conscious thing inside something incomprehensibly large. That ache belongs to you. And it is not a flaw. It is not a mistake in the design of a human mind that the scale of the cosmos produces in the chest a feeling that has no clean name, somewhere between grief and gratitude, somewhere between the vertigo of smallness and the strange warmth of belonging to something so much larger than the self. That feeling is information. It is the mind correctly registering the truth of its situation, the genuine and verifiable fact of what you are and where you are and how briefly you are here and how vast and old and indifferent and also somehow intimate the universe is that contains you. You are here for a moment that the universe will not remember. Your name, your face, the particular texture of your thoughts on this particular night, the way the dark feels to you right now, the weight of the blanket, the sound of whatever small sounds surround you, none of this will persist in any record the cosmos keeps, because the cosmos keeps no records, because there is no archive of moments in the structure of space and time, only the moments themselves, occurring once and only once and then becoming the past, which is a place nothing can return to. And nothing can retrieve. And yet the moment is real. That is the quiet miracle that lives at the center of all of this, the thing that the distances and the timescales and the vast indifference of the universe cannot diminish, no matter how large the numbers become. This moment is real. The darkness around you is real. The breath moving in and out of your body is real, slow and steady and warm, the body doing what it has always known how to do without being told, the lungs opening and closing, the heart keeping its rhythm, the mind beginning to loosen its grip on the day and drift toward the long repair of sleep. The stars above the atmosphere are real, each one burning with the same indifference and the same ancient fire that they have burned with for millions or billions of years, each one a furnace of hydrogen collapsing into helium under pressures that no earthly experience can prepare you to imagine, each one completely unaware of this planet, of this night, of this moment of rest. And yet they are there. And you are here. And between those two facts, between the burning of the stars and the breathing of this body, there is a connection that is not metaphor and not comfort and not wishful thinking but simple chemistry, simple physics, the shared origin of all matter in the first moments of a universe that is still expanding outward into whatever lies beyond its edges. Let that be enough for tonight. Let the scale settle around you like a weight that is also a kind of release, the way a very deep breath releases something in the chest that ordinary breathing does not reach. You do not need to understand it fully. No one does. The astronomers who have spent their lives measuring the distances and mapping the structures and calculating the fates of galaxies and stars and the universe itself, they do not understand it fully either. They understand more of its pieces than most, but the whole of it exceeds every mind that has ever tried to hold it, and that excess is not a failure of intelligence or imagination. It is simply the nature of the thing, too large and too old and too various to be contained in any description, any equation, any narration spoken slowly into the dark of a quiet night. The cosmos is. You are. For this brief and unrepeatable moment, those two facts overlap. The universe has organized some of its matter into a form that can lie still and feel the weight of all that space and all that time and breathe slowly in the dark, and let the mind go soft at the edges and release the day and release the thoughts and release the effort of being a self in a world that asks so much of itself, and simply rest. The stars are still there. They will be there when you wake. The distances are not going anywhere. The silence between galaxies will keep. There is nothing left to do tonight but let the dark be dark, and let the body be heavy, and let the mind drift down and down through all that quiet space and sleep.